how we show up absolutely matters.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go.
It's the first 2 weeks of a brand new quarter, which can only mean one thing. Be a Maker School is open for enrollment. So what exactly is Be a Maker School? It's an online course platform specifically for Western trades. You can learn from home and at your own pace and join a community of makers and entrepreneurs who can support you as you build skills and confidence in your newfound hobby or career. Be a Maker School offers courses in equine photography, cinch making, rawhide and leather braiding, silversmithing and engraving, leatherwork and tooling, and then there's also a business course called The Business of Making, where I am one of the instructors. That course specifically details all of the business aspects behind being a maker. Different sales channels, shipping, marketing, website, branding, email correspondence, goal setting, and a number of other topics. As I mentioned earlier, Be a Maker School is only open for enrollment for the first 2 weeks of every quarter. So if you're interested now, it's definitely worth checking out. Otherwise, you have to wait another 3 months. You can grab all of the info at beamaker.school. Again, that website is beamaker.school. I can't wait to hear how you have inspired and fostered the maker that is inside of you. Hey friends, today's episode is one that has been sitting kind of heavy on my heart, not in a negative way by any means, but we're talking about something that may seem very surface level, but I believe that it has really deep roots, and that is taking pride in your appearance. Whether you are a rancher, a teacher, a parent, a business owner, how we show up really matters. No, this conversation is not about money. It is not about vanity. It's about pride, intention, respect. It's about what we're teaching the next generation and what we are reflecting back into the world, even when we think nobody is watching. And I've had a few different instances of why I want to talk about this. Earlier this spring, it might have been, do we call this spring or winter, January, February? I went to a career fair, and at this career fair, there were students who showed up in their dirty work pants and dirty Carhartt coats like they had just got done doing some kind of a farm chore, even though I don't think that they have any farm chores, in their college dorm room. And I'm thinking to myself, why are these students coming to a career fair and they are not dressing for the job they want? And again, college students, right? They don't have a ton of money. So, well, Jessie, what if this dirty work coat is all that they have, or these dirty work jeans are all that they have? Like, you don't want to shame anybody. And you're right. I absolutely don't. But again, how we show up absolutely matters. How we take pride in our appearance absolutely matters. It really is about pride and intention and respect. One of the other reasons that I wanted to talk about this is because this spring I was at a branding. And in the middle of that, I found myself in a conversation with a friend who was there about something that had nothing to do with branding. And it was about how few people take pride in their appearance anymore. So he was telling me this story about his grandma, and it really stuck with me. And he was telling me about how beautiful his grandma was and how much respect he had for his grandma. Again, in relation to taking pride in your appearance. And what he said was, even if she was on her deathbed, she was going to wake up, she was going to do her hair, she was going to do her makeup, she was going to put her clothes on, she was going to clean the house, she was going to do laundry, she was going to cook, and then she'd go lay down and die. And that line has truly stuck with me ever since, because what he was really saying with that was that woman showed up for herself no matter what. She didn't wait for a reason, getting dressed, doing her hair. They weren't about vanity. whether she felt like doing it or not, they were acts of discipline and dignity and self-respect. And that specific conversation, again, talking about his grandma, somebody who was born in a very different time than we are born into now, reminded me of, and I'm sure you guys have seen this photo before, but years ago I came across a photo. It's black and white. I found it online, and it's one that has just lived rent-free in my mind. Is that what we say? Is that the trendy phrase? But it was taken at a livestock sale in, I'm pretty sure it was San Angelo, Texas. And there's a boy, he's maybe 7 or 8 years old, and it's either his dad or his grandpa. Again, it's a black and white photo, so it's kind of hard to judge somebody's age, but they're standing beside him. And both of these men, the boy and the older gentleman, they are in suits and ties and hats. And boy, do they look sharp. They're not posed. This is not some like fancy photo shoot. That is how they showed up to the livestock sale. But what really struck me about this, it's not necessarily just the two of them. I mean, yes, they do look very dapper. There's no denying that. But it's the background of the photo that I find really interesting, because every single person in that photo looked the same as those two individuals. They're wearing suits. They're wearing ties. They're in button-down shirts. They all have hats. Everybody had taken the time to dress well. Maybe this was a 4-H sale, or maybe it was some kind of purebred operation sale. I don't necessarily know the details as to why people were as dressed up as they were, but it's not like this was some 5-star venue. It was not an opera in New York City. It had wooden bleachers and concrete floors. It's going to smell like livestock and dust and probably some sawdust in there. But the people sitting in those stands, they really understood the value of the moment. They showed up with pride, not because somebody told them to, but because it was a true reflection of their character. And that was the culture back then. And that's why I think that I love that photo so much, is that is what it really depicts, is a culture that says, this matters, and the way that I carry myself matters. And when I go out in public, I want to look my best. I also think about my parents in this context as well. I've heard stories from both of them talking about their families and their upbringings and how neither of their families necessarily had much. It's not like they came from a ton of money by any means. If you were to ask them, I think that both of them would tell you that they were pretty darn poor. And it's not just my parents. I mean, my mom was born in the 50s. My dad was born in the 40s. This is very common for that period of time. The period of time before that, obviously through World Wars and the Great Depression, and even the time following that, I mean, these were people who they didn't have anything compared to what the majority of us have now. For instance, when my dad went to college, that was the first time he ever had indoor plumbing. They had an outhouse that they used, and then how they would bathe and shower in the summer when the irrigation canal would fill up with water, that's what they used for a shower. There was a bar of soap, I think it was lye, that floated. So that way, if you lost the bar of soap, it wasn't going to sink to the bottom of the canal. I mean, these people really did work for everything that they ever had. And anytime that I've ever seen pictures of either my dad and his twin sister, or his parents, which would be my grandparents, or my mom and her brothers, and my grandma Helen, which would be my mom's mom, these people looked nice. They were dressed up for school. And again, this isn't a time where people didn't have anything. So again, this is not about vanity. This is not about money. This is not about status or making people feel bad for what they have or what they don't have. And my mom has specifically told me, and so has Alan, about how you had school clothes or like going out clothes, and then you had play clothes. And as soon as you got home from school, you took off your school clothes, also known as your nice clothes, and then you put on your holey jeans or your shorts or whatever it was so that you could go out and play and get those things dirty. But you took care of the stuff that was nice. And I was raised that same way. Obviously, I'm going to have been raised by people who they did that when they were young, and I have always been expected to do the same, right? I remember I'd go to school and I'd have nice school clothes, and then when I got home, I was supposed to change out of them so that I could go play in the dirt in my crappy clothes. But it wasn't just my parents. It was nearly everybody in that first half of the 1900s, and even before that, and obviously after that, people did have next to nothing. They wore shoes that had holes in the soles. They wore jeans that were so patched that you couldn't tell what the original fabric and what the repairs were. I mean, obviously, historically speaking, we know that people made clothes from flour sacks, and that's why flour companies started printing really pretty patterns on their flour sacks because they knew that people took that and made clothes out of them. People wore hand-me-downs until the seams gave out, but when they went to town for supplies, when they sent their kids to school, they wore the best that they had. They didn't have a closet full of options like most of us do now, but they did have pride. They understood that dressing well was not about showing off. It was about showing respect for themselves, for the moment, for the people around them. And I keep coming back to this question of why have we lost that? Why, as a society, have we let go of the idea that showing up matters and that how we present ourselves tells a story? We can have all of the comfort and convenience in the world, and we can still choose care. We just have to decide that it's worth it again. A few weeks ago, I went to Jet's school for the end of the year music concert. And it's one of those events where all of the grades come together. And so the gym is packed and there's grandparents taking photos and, everyone's excited to see their kids. And they'd send home a note asking kids to dress up. And a good chunk of them definitely did. Girls are in cute little dresses and boys have their collared shirts and they're tucked in. And it was really sweet. But what surprised me, honestly, was how few of the parents dressed up. And even more than that, how few of the teachers did as well. Now, let me be clear about that too. I love teachers. You will never, ever, 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 ever find me saying anything negative about teachers. I think they do one of the hardest, most thankless jobs on the planet. They get paid next to nothing. They raise our children. They put forth more effort and energy and time into molding those little humans. And I absolutely love them for that. But I couldn't help but think as we were all kind of, filing into the gym and waiting for people to take their seats and whatnot so we could get this concert started, that if a kid walks into a classroom every day and sees their teacher wearing, faded jeans or a t-shirt, what are they learning about professionalism? What are they learning about self-respect? Because in my eyes, and again, this is my personal opinion, for students, school is their job, right? School is their business. So just like how we have casual wear and business wear, where you don't wear the same things at home that you're supposed to wear to the office, if school is their workplace, how are we as adults showing up in those spaces that teaches them that? If we as people, as parents, as teachers, as anybody who is walking into a business, we need to look professional, like we are meant to be at that business. But I think that if kids saw that, they would also want to take more initiative and effort and energy into looking the part. And when I show up to Jets events, I get dressed up. Not because I am trying to stand out, not because getting dressed is something that is easy for me. I'm sure you guys have heard me say this before, but I was such a little tomboy in middle school. I wore my hair in a slick back ponytail. I wore a gray University of Idaho hoodie, go Vandals, to school every day. And finally, my dad once told me that if I wore that hoodie another day, he was going to take it off me and he was going to burn it. Being stylish is not something that I have always had, and I still don't really feel that stylish now. So if you're thinking to yourself, Jessie, that's easy to say for you because you're good at it. Like, no. I have figured out a way to dress for my body type and find out what I like, and that is the box that I stay in. That is how I get dressed, right? But the reason that I do that is I want him to see that we show up for the things that matter, that looking the part really helps us feel the part. And honestly, I want my kids, when they see their mom, I want them to be proud of me. I want them to remember that when I showed up for them, even if I wasn't feeling my best, even when I was stressed from work or ranch life or whatever it was, I want them to see a mom who chose to be present and polished regardless of that. Now, don't get me wrong, you guys. There are definitely days where I look like I have just survived a wind tunnel of desert dirt, or I come to the school and I have cow crap down the side of my leg. Like I walk into the farm store that way. That is definitely part of agriculture, right? But that is going to be the exception, not the rule. Most days when I leave the house, whether it's to go run errands or get the kids to school, go to a meeting, like I make the effort and I get dressed. And it's not because I want to. Honestly, a lot of the reason that I do it is because I don't want to. It is so much more comfortable and convenient to just stay in my pajamas all day, especially because I'm working from home. Or to stay in my sweats, or after I go to the gym in the morning, stay in my workout gear, whatever that may be. But I know that, again, I want to set the example. I want to set the precedence to my children that I'm going to hold myself to a high standard, even if I don't necessarily want to. The other thing that I want to mention here is I know that for a lot of people, there are some seasons of life where getting dressed feels like you are climbing a mountain. You know, if you were in a hard place mentally, emotionally, physically, if you were somebody who just had a baby and none of your clothes fit, like just making it through the day is all that you can do. I have been there. I fully understand where you are, and I am not judging you. I am not shaming you. This is not a standard to hold over yourself when you are already stretched so very thin. But when you can, I hope you will. Because sometimes I think putting in even the smallest bit of effort to help us make us feel more like ourselves is absolutely worth it. You know, I know for me, one of the things that I do if I've been sick for a couple of days and I've just laid in bed in my pajamas and my hair is a wreck and I haven't worn real pants in a week and I still feel like death, I will take 10 minutes to do my hair and to put on some tinted moisturizer. And I may still stay in my sweats, but I absolutely felt better because I put some effort into my appearance. And there's true psychology behind this. You know, the signals that we send to our brain when we care for ourselves, even if it's just a little, that can have a ripple effect. It doesn't solve absolutely everything, but it helps us reclaim a little bit of power and a little bit of peace and definitely a little bit of pride. I also think about what it means for the industry that we represent. The ag and Western industries are incredibly valuable, but they're also incredibly misunderstood by the outside world. And so I do think that the way that we show up does matter. When we dress with intention, when we look like we take ourselves seriously, it sends a message. Not that we are some redneck country folk who can't do math and all of the things that, you know, people think about rural America. Because, you know, when we get dressed, it tells people that agriculture is professional, that we respect what we do, that we expect the world to respect it and us too. We can't ask people to take our industry seriously if we don't take ourselves seriously first. So maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, Jessie, I hear you, but I am not going to put on a dress to go get fuel from the farm store. And I get that. It's not about being fancy. It's about being intentional. You don't need a walk-in closet or a personal stylist or the newest clothes. You just need some good solid pieces, a mindset shift, and a little strategy. So I've got some tips, and these are going to work for you regardless of where you are, especially if you're somebody who's on a budget, because I think that we all are in this industry. So here's my first tip. Have a go-to outfit. Something that always fits. It always feels good. You don't have to overthink it. I think that a black t-shirt, a pair of good solid like denim trousers that's dark wash, you can't go wrong with those two things. They are always going to work. You can dress them up. You can dress them down. It's something that is really, really easy to transition into whatever it is that you're doing. And it always looks just a little bit more elevated. Obviously, you want to be able to wear things that you can still function in, but you just want to elevate it a little bit. Tip number 2 is separate your workwear from your event wear. You don't need a ton of really nice outfits. You just need 1 or 2 that you keep clean, ready, ironed, starched, whatever that looks like. Just have a few things that are all kind of together in the same place in your closet that are really easy to pull from, especially if you are on a time crunch. This one goes for both men and women, but I think it's important to keep a clean hat and polished boots. Think about this from the mindset of having school clothes and play clothes. We want to have work clothes and town clothes, or whatever you want to call it. So the cowboy hat that you work in, not necessarily the cowboy hat that you should be taking to the state house. Same with the boots that you wear. I think it's always a good rule of thumb to have something that is professional, that is clean, that you can take to that elevated place. And then obviously to have the hat and boots that you're going to work on the farm, on the ranch in, whatever that looks like. Another really simple tip is to tailor what you own. I can't tell you how many times I have taken things to my dry cleaner to have them adjusted. You can buy a really affordable blazer from Target and you can take it to your dry cleaner or to a tailor and have it fitted for you. And you are going to take that $20 blazer to make it look like it is $200, and it's not going to cost you much money to get it tailored at all. If it's a $20 blazer that fits well, it's going to look a heck of a lot nicer than a $200 blazer that does not fit. So that is one that is really easy to make those affordable pieces look like they are a lot more expensive than they really are. Grooming goes a long way. Men, I think the easiest thing for you to do if you can't get in to get a haircut, or if your wife doesn't have time to get a haircut, is ask her to shave the back of your neck. That is one that I do all the time for Justin. He will still have the longest hair known to man for his haircut, but if I can shave the back of his neck and just like clean things up, it literally looks like he has just gotten a haircut, even though he hasn't. And most of the time when he goes somewhere, he's going to have a cowboy hat on anywhere, so nobody's going to see the top of his head, but they are going to see his neck. So if I can get in there and just trim his neck, he literally looks like a brand new man. If you're somebody who has a Norelco beard trimmer, you can use that. If you are somebody who has the haircut box, you can use those cordless trimmers as well. I've done it all. I've used it all. It is really, really easy. It takes no more than 5 minutes. It completely elevates your look. Okay, and then a couple of final tips. This one is maybe a little bit more business oriented. I feel like we know this, you guys, but I also then kind of wonder if we do, because I've seen people and it makes me question it. Avoid overly casual or revealing clothes. This isn't necessarily about modesty, but it is about knowing your audience and really dressing with purpose. Keep that one in mind. Also, thrifting. You guys, I can't tell you how many things in my closet I have gotten off of eBay or Poshmark, especially things that are going to be more of an expensive brand that I can find far, far cheaper when I buy them secondhand. Honestly, some of the best pieces in my closet are those what you would consider to be vintage pieces that are secondhand to me, but who's to say that they haven't been sold 3 or 4 times and I'm just the one who has it now. So do not sleep on eBay, Poshmark, those types of places, Mercari. I mean, there's tons of places where you guys can go thrift some really, really great stuff, and it is incredibly affordable. We talked a little bit about this earlier, just about wrinkles. So having a section of your closet where you put those things that you know you're going to wear and they're starched or they're ironed. Wrinkles. Don't leave the house in wrinkles, please. Just don't do it. And then know your audience. If you are showing up to a school event, a meeting, a community dinner, dress for the moment. All of them are going to be a little bit different. There are some outfits that are obviously going to work across all of those different areas. There are some that are maybe going to be a little bit more, this is school appropriate, this is meeting appropriate, this is community dinner appropriate, right? Again, we want versatility. We don't want to have this big closet full of stuff. If you have 1 or 2 outfits, maybe 3, that you can wear anywhere, that is going to be the ticket, you guys. But I highly encourage you, at the end of the day, this is not about chasing trends or trying to look perfect. It's just about showing the world and yourself that you take pride in the role that you play, whatever that role may be. You do not need to have a lot. You just need to have a little bit of effort, a little bit of intention, and the belief that you are worth showing up for, because you are. I believe in you. I know that you are worth showing up for, and everybody around you wants to see you radiating in that happiness and that confidence that you have. And there is no better way to get that than when you feel like you look good. So thank you guys for listening. I will catch you back here next week.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.